Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 884. 884. September the 1st, 2019, Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, before we get started on the news of the day, keep in mind that it is time to get your pick in for Dumbass of the Week. That's right, on this video, in the comment section of this video, get your vote in for Dumbass of the Week. Please try to get your vote in by 8:30 Eastern Standard Time by Sunday night Eastern Standard Time, or Monday night. Yes, Monday night. Try to get your vote in by Monday night Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, so that you make sure your vote gets counted, and hopefully I won't make any mistakes or funny things won't happen. You know what I mean. And anyway, so get your vote in. I really think this week, I'm looking forward to actually seeing if there's any competition at all for Joe Biden this week. Yeah, there's some other competition out there, but I think that Biden's going to win this week in an overwhelming fashion. That story, I don't know whether it's the story, the fake war story he told, or his response to it. Either one of those could qualify. I don't know if anybody can top that. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad, but hey, I'm always open to other opinions, and certainly there's a lot of other dumb things that were said by Democrats this week, but we'll wait and see. But I do think Biden's pretty much got a lock on it this week, but you never know. We still have some time between now and voting, so we'll see if something else pops up. Okay, so before we get into the Spygate stuff and the news of the day, just wanted to say something about what we have going on down here in the Gulf with this Hurricane Dorian. As many of you know, I have friends all over Florida. My girlfriend actually is down in Florida right now with her parents. She is just across the Georgia-Florida border in the very most northern panhandle of Florida, right about in the central part of the panhandle in Florida. Literally like 20 minutes across the Georgia-Florida border is where she's at. I have good friends down in Pompano Beach. I have several good friends all around the Redneck Riviera. I have good friends in the Lauderdale, Orlando area. So I got friends all over Florida. Of course, this storm looks like it's tracking like it's also going to have some impact in Georgia, maybe even the Carolinas. And of course, we have quite a few subs. I don't know about Georgia. Maybe I have some subs from Georgia. I'm not aware of any, but definitely have subs from the Carolinas, Patty and Maura. Certainly to my longest subscribers to this channel are down in the Carolinas. So it looks like it's taking a more easterly track. Eventually, at some point, it's going to come in and it's going to head north, is what they're looking at right now. If that holds true, it's just a matter of when it makes its break and heads north. At this point, it looks like it could make an early turn and go north, which would be bad for the Carolinas. But if it waits and delays a little bit, then it may even could go more up toward the sort of the western side of Georgia, up through maybe even a little bit of Louisiana, Mississippi. So it's still not clear what the track of the storm is going to be. I guess it's supposed to hit landfall, Florida sometime around Monday in the afternoon, early evening. So I know a lot of you out there watching my videos are watching the storm very carefully. Make sure you prepare for the worst. We hope for the best, but you always prepare for the worst. Take care of yourselves and just keep your eye on the storm. You never know with these storms what they could do. We know the type of damage a Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane can do. So definitely take care of yourselves out there. And we wish you the best if you're in the path of this storm. Okay, so now that we know the obstruction case against Trump was based solely on Trump asking Comey to go easy on Flynn, and then of course Trump firing Comey. That's really the two things that we learn. Now we know from the IG report that that was the two things that was really driving the obstruction case. Unbelievable. The idea that Trump just suggested to Comey in a casual setting while having dinner, he just said, hey, if you can, I'd appreciate it if you could go easy on Flynn. And there's nothing obstructing about that. I mean, that's not obstructing an investigation. Not at all. It's not even close. But it just shows you how desperate that Comey and the gang were to take anything that they could use against Trump. Because in no way, shape, or form would anyone ever consider just making a casual comment like, hey, I certainly hope you can see your way clear to take it easy on General Flynn. That is not obstruction of justice or anything else. And it's just gut-wrenching to find this out, that Comey and his group the small group would use something like that, which they know for 100% sure. I mean, Comey's a lawyer. Most of the people in the small group are lawyers. They know that's not obstruction. But they needed something. And this is why they've withheld this information for so long. Because they know if they actually come out and tell the truth about the things that they used to launch the counterintelligence investigation, or in this case the obstruction case, that it would be completely ludicrous and they would be laughed out of town and probably locked up as a result, because they actually followed through. So the two things that we learn about why they pursued obstruction: Trump telling Comey that he thinks it would be good if he could find his way clear to go easy on Flynn, and also, of course, firing Comey. And of course, that's not obstruction either. Trump had every right to fire Comey, and in fact, an obligation and a duty to fire Comey. He was a very, very bad FBI director. After botching the Rotten Reverend Clinton email investigation, he should have been fired there. The biggest mistake Trump made was not firing Comey on day one, by sticking with him as long as he did. The idea that firing Comey would affect any investigation, we know that the day after Comey was fired, McCabe was being questioned by Congress, and they asked him directly, has there been any interference or any effort to stop your investigation? He said no, not at all, despite the fact that they had already launched an obstruction investigation for that very thing. And firing Comey, he had every right to fire Comey. He can fire anybody he wants in the executive branch for any reason he wants. There was never, ever a predicate for launching an obstruction investigation. And we know that there was never any predicate for launching a counterintelligence operation or a criminal investigation. There was never any predicate crime or any probable cause, no reasonable suspicion. There was never anything to launch any of these investigations. None of them. None of them. This is just extraordinary to be. I think we've known this, but once you actually get the IG report and you actually can see it for yourself, and you actually see that these are the facts as discovered by the Inspector General, and they appear to be, straight up the facts. I don't question Horowitz's findings. Not saying he's got everything, but it's pretty thorough. And to have this kind of a finding and that's why he had criminal referral. So this is just extraordinary. All three of the investigations, whether it was the obstruction, whether it was the counterintelligence, whether it was the criminal, not a single one of those things were warranted, justified, or properly predicated. And this is what Barr and Durham are going to find. They're going to find exactly what Horowitz is finding, but worse. Because Horowitz is just looking into those sorts of things within FBI policy and procedures. Barr and Durham are looking at the activities that occurred based on all these things, and of course the origins and the criminal activity that occurred. They're looking at the criminal side of things. And so we know that the obstruction case against Trump was based solely on Trump asking Comey to go easy on Flynn, and of course also Trump firing Comey, which we know now are not predicate reasons for launching an obstruction case. So if this was the evidence, and it was, then it should have been classified. Okay, so now we're looking at this again. Horowitz points this out, as other people pointed this out. This information should have been classified. If in fact these really were the reasons that they launched the obstruction case, then their notes and Comey's interactions with Trump would have then been classified as 302s. They essentially would have been a 302. Comey would have been interrogating essentially Trump. and that would have been an official interview, which is called by the FBI an official interview, and the notes you make afterwards are referred to a 302. Those Comey memos should have been official 302s because they pertain to an official investigation as far as Comey was concerned, and they were the property of the U.S. government. But, of course, we know that they were not. They were quite the contrary. These memos, in fact, were leaked to the media by Comey and others in the form of leaked emails that were, of course, as I just said, government property and not Comey's private property. So here is another problem that you have with this. You see this all through the entire Spygate fiasco. You see this thing where sometimes they say something was classified because it was part of an official investigation to protect themselves for why they haven't revealed it, and then they'll take the same thing and tell you that it was unclassified because if it were classified, then by mishandling it, they would have violated the law. And who, of course, decided what the classifications would be on those memos that Comey wrote? Page, Strzok, Priestep, and Rybicki. Or, not Rybicki, Baker. James Baker. Those are the people who decided. And how did they decide this? Well, these here, we need to leak to the media to get the investigation going, so we have to not classify those. But these here, we can go ahead and classify these. And they were all Comey notes that he made after his conversations with Trump. See, so this will be, again, obvious to Horowitz, obvious to Barr. It's a no-brainer. Horowitz figured it out. Durham will figure it out. Barr will figure it out. This is a no-brainer. This doesn't even require thinking, really. It's just on its face obvious. And this is why these guys are in a world of hurt. They are in a world of hurt. So I'm watching this panel on MSNBC, which I think was hosted by Donnie Deutsch, and I think that was his last show because he just got fired again. That'll be the 5th show this dude has had canceled. Okay, so really not many people like Donnie Deutsch. He's an idiot, obviously, for many of you who have watched him. But he's having this panel. He's got like himself and 3 other people on this panel, and he's making the case, which is probably why they fired him. He's making the case that if Warren or Biden are the nominee, that Trump will win 47 states. 47. Now, that's even more than I predicted. I said if it were Biden or Warren or any of the socialists, that Trump would win probably 44 or 45. But Deutsch is saying that Trump could win 47 states if Bernie or Warren are the nominee, and he's basing that on the fact that Trump will have no problem describing and making the case that they are socialist, and socialism will lose big time in his mind in all but 3 states in the country. I think there's 2 more that could actually go blue on a socialist agenda. But, whether it's 45 or 47, it would be a disastrous landslide loss for Democrats. Now, he was the one that was strongest in that opinion, but the other 3 panelists, hardcore lefties on MSNBC, also agreed that, it would be bad. They didn't agree as bad as he did, but they all agreed, if Trump is effective and Republicans are effective at labeling the Democrat nominee as socialist, it's probably going to be a landslide win for Trump. So they know this. They're very well aware of this, and this is why some of them are trying to lean towards Warren, because they still think that once she gets a nomination, that they can go back to her previous voting record where she was voting as more of a centrist. And they think that that's their card that they can play. It's just not going to work, in my opinion, because she said too many things that are too far left in the Democratic primary that have all been videotaped by the Republican National Committee. They've got there are people at the Republican National Committee that are archiving every single thing that every one of these candidates are saying. Everything. Every debate, every speech, every interview, everything. A complete database on all these people. And once the nominee is named, this information is going to be compiled, given to Trump, and he is going to have it all right in front of him. He's going to know every single thing that these people said. And you got Warren supporting Medicare for all, getting rid of ICE. The whole 9 yards, the whole leftist agenda pretty much sounds a lot like Bernie. Warren is too far left. She will lose, in my opinion, at least 45 states, in my opinion. Maybe 47. Um, so, yeah, I mean, this is something that you're seeing even the left. Of course, you know, the Washington Post came out with their hit piece on Biden. I think that they're figuring out that they have to get Biden to go. I think they'd like him to go nicely, but they'll take him out in a harder fashion if they have to. I'm sure the rotten Reverend Clinton is already leaning on them right now. She's probably got her people at work planning out their strategy to take Biden down within the next 30 days to make sure that by the 1st of October the path is clear for the rotten Reverend Clinton. And as I've said before, I think somewhere around Halloween you're going to start to see the draft Hillary campaign. I think that she would like to avoid even having to go to primaries. I think she would just like to have her name put on the ballot so that you have Hillary Clinton and a bunch of socialists. And she knows if it's her name versus a bunch of socialists, she won't even have to go to a primary or do any or really do any more speeches than she does now. I mean, she's essentially out campaigning now. But you know, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But I'm certain as ever that Biden is simply not going to be able to make it. I've been saying that since before he threw his hat in the ring. Well, we have Ocasio-Cortez saying that she's a commie, straight up commie. She says that Republicans are trying to scare people away from socialism. Well, yeah, we're trying to scare people away from socialism. Not so much people, young people who their life experience, they can't remember a Soviet Union. They can't remember a communist China. They can't remember all these hardcore commie countries, socialist countries, and the disastrous failures that they've been. They can't remember a Jimmy Carter presidency. They can't remember the guns and butter budgets of the 60s. So they really don't have the life experience or knowledge. They've been indoctrinated into the far left-wing colleges and universities that they've attended, and their minds are completely cooked. And of course, Ocasio-Cortez, the wild-eyed commie, is no different. She's just a product of the communist revolution that began occurring in colleges and universities in the late 60s, and now we can see the product of that. And it's frightening and it's troubling, and I do hope that at some point we address this situation and start taking a look at what we're actually teaching kids in school, and particularly in colleges and universities. They're coming out of there believing that communism is great and that capitalism sucks, and you have to wonder what kind of education they're getting, what kind of history they studied. It's hard for those of us who are over 40 to even contemplate or comprehend how they could be so misguided and how they could be so far off track. And it goes exactly to what they've been taught, what they've been told, and they believe it. You know, I mean, young people look up to their college professors, and they think their college professors are smarter than everybody, including their parents and history itself. So, yeah, it's a dangerous trend, and somehow we need to address it and try to reverse it, because it's sad, really, because Ocasio-Cortez, the wild-eyed commie, she and many, many others like her actually believe this shit. So yes, Republicans are trying to scare people away from socialism, but not just Republicans. There are plenty of independents, Democrats, libertarians. There are plenty of people who are apolitical who are trying to scare you away from socialism, and we should do that. I don't know if that's scaring people away. We just need to educate them. We're also learning that it's not just John Durham who's been overseas in a lot of these countries digging into the Spygate investigation. We know that Durham has been in Europe. You know, he was in the UK. We believe he was headed to Australia at some point. We know he's probably in the Ukraine, Italy. But it appears that William Barr himself, Attorney General Barr, was in London for 3 or 4 days this week before last. And no one, I don't remember ever reporting on it or seeing anyone report on it. It was kept kind of quiet. So obviously William Barr has also made a trip to the UK. And I'm not sure who he was talking to, but we're learning now that William Barr himself went over to the UK for a few days. Now, maybe he went over there to play the bagpipes or something, I don't know, but my guess is while he was there, he was asking a few questions. If he wants a pretty good idea of what may have been going on in London in and around the time period of March through September, October of 2016, he just needs to talk to Gina Haspel. She was a CIA director, CIA station chief in London when all this was going down. Certainly he knows that. We have Papagalopoulos tweeting out that Alexander Down the Hatch Downer was recording him. He was recording him. And Papagalopoulos says he knows this because the Mueller team told him so. Wow. That means that there is a recording, and, well, in our case, we never really hear recordings, but certainly a transcript. We should certainly, as part of these declassification documents, I expect to see the transcript of the Downer Papagalopoulos meeting. And I'm dying to see that transcript because, clearly, if it turns out to be what Papagalopoulos says, is that the situation, or the conversation never even came up about Russia, emails, hacking, dirt, none of that stuff even came up. If that's true, then that blows a gigantic, massive hole in the entire setup with Papagalopoulos and the start of Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Because remember, they're saying that Operation Crossfire Hurricane was launched because of Papagalopoulos telling Downer that he was told by, well, I don't think he told Downer it was missed, but Papagalopoulos allegedly telling Downer that he heard that the Russians have dirt on Hillary. Then Downer goes and tells the London station chief or what have you, and then it works its way over to the FBI. But Papagalopoulos says that did not happen, that he didn't say anything. So there's a dispute between Downer, his recollection of that, and Papagalopoulos. And if there is a transcript of that, and Papagalopoulos saying Downer was definitely recording him, then a transcript would tell us that. And if it turns out that conversation never did come up and Papagalopoulos' recall on this is correct, then that really blows a hole, and the FBI and Downer and the Australian government are going to have a very, very difficult time explaining why they said that Papagalopoulos said something that he did not say. That will be tremendous bombshell of the many bombshells that we have seen, and more evidence for why these people are hardcore criminals and need to be locked up. Which brings me to my next point. So the big conversation this past week, especially in the light of Comey getting a second free pass, is will McCabe be indicted? So we've heard from quite a few people, former Justice Department people, former FBI people, various legal pundits, and the overwhelming majority of people that I've seen, including Matt Whitaker, DeGeneva, Solomon, Andy McCarthy, Dershowitz, various others whose names I can't remember, they're all saying, yeah, I mean, it looks like McCabe is going to be indicted, and he certainly should be. He told 3 blatant lies under oath to the FBI Inspector General, and he told a 4th lie. He wasn't under oath, but it was the 4th time he made someone just flat out denied that he did the leaking. Then they came back to him and said, and he doesn't know at that point, but Lisa Page has given him the emails that prove it. So they come back to him and say, hey, just want to verify, Seth, we ask you if you leaked or authorized the leaks of those stories, and again, he lied. And that's when they came back to him the 3rd time and said, look, we got to tell you something, man. Well, we got the evidence, we know you lied. And only when they told him, here it is. Here's your conversations with Lisa Page. It's right here. You lied. Okay, we got you. Only then did he admit it, and then he tried to spin it. So, yeah, he blatantly lied under oath to the FBI in the course of an investigation 3 times. And as was mentioned by Andrew McCarthy and a couple other people, that when your lawyers go over to the Department of Justice and visit the Deputy Attorney General to discuss the situation, it usually means that your attorneys have learned that they are going to indict, and they're going to try to make a last-ditch effort to get him to change his mind. But I think in light of letting Comey off the hook, that there's going to be more pressure, and I just think I think it would be very, very politically, I think it would be very, very difficult at this point if they let McCabe off. Now, I think that they'll indict him. I do believe that'll happen probably within the next week or 2. I think they will indict him, but my guess is they'll give him a hand slap. He might get like a week or 2 weeks, 10 days in jail or something. It'll be more the embarrassment of having to admit that he is indicted, found guilty of lying. I think it's more the humiliation, the embarrassment, and the fact that his other case is not going to go forward. He's not going to receive the majority of his pension and all the other things he's shooting for. And of course, that position on CNN they'll probably show him the door. I don't think that they'll want to have him around at that point. And so, and then he's got further issues coming down the road when the larger IG report comes out and Durham's investigation is over. He'll have many other things to face at that point, far worse than just lying to the FBI. So, yes, I do agree that McCabe will probably be indicted. I don't think he's going to get, like 2 years in jail or something. I think it'll be a minimum jail time. But I do believe that McCabe in the next two weeks or so, maybe less, is going to end up being charged with lying. So that brings up the next issue. If you remember back when he was initially fired, it was quite the scene, as we understood from the media reporting, of when they came and fired him and escorted him out of the building. And apparently when they came in to tell him that, he created quite a scene. He got very angry, started shouting, cursing, and said something to the effect of, if I go down, I'm going to burn this whole effing thing down. What did he mean by I'm going to burn this whole effing thing down? Well, what he meant by that is that if he's going down, he's going to take everybody with him. He's going to expose what everybody else did. Because he'll feel like, hey, yeah, I was part of the plot, but so was everybody else. You're not going to scapegoat me and let everybody else get away with it. If I'm going down, I'm taking everybody with me. And that could probably include Obama, because it's very likely at his position, McCabe probably was, I don't know if he spoke for the president directly, but he certainly would have learned from either Yates or Comey that Obama was certainly, at the very least, briefed on all this, knew what was going on, and in fact they were following his orders. And this is likely going to be McCabe's. McCabe and many of these other people are probably going to try to use the fact that, hey, we were doing what the president directed us to do. You can't throw us in jail or indict us for doing what the president of the United States ordered us to do. I think that that's going to be what they're going to try to use to try to create a wedge. I think it's all they really have to try to get off the hook. Of course, Obama's going to play dumb. Oh, I didn't know about it until I heard about it on TV. So Obama's going to play dumb and throw these people under the bus. That's what's going to happen to them. Yes, I do think that McCabe is a slimy, weak character. I do believe he's a vindictive little prick. And I do believe that when he is indicted, that he will absolutely offer to give up information on other people, and he will take people down with him if he possibly can. I do believe that that's exactly what he'll do. And I believe that for a very long time. I always thought that he and Sally Yates would be the two people I would work on if I were the prosecutor in this case. That's the two people I would work on, because they're far enough up the chain that they would know everything that was going on, and they were guilty of criminal activities themselves in the plot, but they were below the cabinet level people that they would have been working for. I think that they're the perfect tier people that you would target because they would have the information you want to get the bigger fish, because they're big enough fish themselves. They would know that, but they're not the ultimate big fish, the people who actually were dictating things. So I do think that McCabe will probably sing like a bird, and I do believe he will be indicted in the next week or two. Charged, I should say. As far as Comey's concerned, Comey is in that sort of, he's had two strikes against him. The first time he was able to wiggle off the hook was during Benghazi. Of course, there wasn't a criminal referral from the Benghazi stuff, but we certainly found out from Benghazi his handling of the Clinton email investigation. Now we know a lot more than we knew even back then, and he certainly got off on the first thing, so I consider that strike one, that they let him slide on his activities around those things. Then, of course, this recent IG report, which included a criminal referral, we see is even more damning and shows even more. And the more you read into that, it's a lot more than just the leaking of the memos. I think that that's the light stuff from the most recent report. I think what's much more damaging is the learning the account of why he briefed Trump on January 6th at Trump Tower, the purpose behind that and what was going on in association with that, that he was actually there in a capacity of being a counterintelligence agent to set up Trump, to lay a trap for Trump. He wasn't there to brief Trump as a defensive briefing. He was there to lay a trap. And I think that that's the most damning thing that came out of this. And this was fairly damning. And I do believe he should have been charged. I've heard the arguments why he shouldn't not have been. We've already talked about it. I'm not going to go through it anymore. Everybody has their own opinion on that. That's fine. But to me, I look at Comey as a guy with 2 strikes on him. And I do believe that just from what we know, unless there's some information that we don't know, and I don't think there's any out there, because Nunes and Gowdy and Ratcliffe have seen it. Nunes, Ratcliffe, and Gowdy have seen the FISA applications, okay? And if there was something else there, they would be letting us know. They maybe can't say exactly what it is, but they would be insinuating there's something else there. But the only thing Nunes has said is, yeah, there's something else there, and it's actually worse. And I know what that something else is. I figured it out a long time ago. It's the Cody Shearer information. The Cody Shearer information is also the Cody Shearer dossier, along with the Steele dossier information, is exactly what they're talking about. And so Comey, of course, signs off on the FISA warrant. Based on that, goes and tells Trump on January 6th that it's unverified information. Then he goes in front of Congress 7 months after signing off on it for the FISA warrant and tells Congress it's salacious and unverified. And then, when he's interviewed after that, he tells the Congress in their hearings that even at that time, that it still had never been verified. Yet, back in October of 2016, he signs off on that FISA warrant where it says, under penalty of perjury, I have determined and verified that this information is correct. It's verified. There's even a Woods process that he would have had to have looked at. So, clearly, that is strike 3. Clearly, that is strike 3, and that's probably the most damning of the things that we know. And again, there's a larger conspiracy, and that is something that Durham is probably going to be trying to put together, because you have all the individual things that were done. Some of these things were just violations of policies. Some of these things were crimes. And on their own, standing on their own, which is all that Horowitz looks at, Horowitz doesn't connect dots. He just looks at individual actions taken where they violations or not. Durham is looking at how all this stuff figured into a larger conspiracy. And within the larger conspiracy, you have both policy violations and crimes. So I think that but there's no doubt that using the Steele and the Shearer information to sign off on that FISA warrant is absolutely strike 3 for Comey, and I do believe he will be indicted on that. And I do believe, of course, when Durham finishes his investigation, all these things, along with many other things, will be compiled together. The dots will be connected that will show a criminal conspiracy to thwart the efforts of candidate Trump, to lay a trap for the President-elect Trump, and then to destroy and take out through a political coup President Trump. And I think all these things will be evident, and they will be presented with the evidence will be presented to a grand jury. And I think that ultimately that's where Comey, McCabe, Yates, many, many other people, I predict that there'll be several dozen fairly high-level people indicted. Remember, it was all high-level people running this. This wasn't like a bunch of low-level rogue FBI guys running any of this. This was all top-tier FBI, DOJ, CIA, DNI. It was all the top-level people running this. And so I think that that it's going to take some time, but I do think ultimately I cannot imagine that based on what we know and what's coming out, I just don't think there's any way that Barr cannot charge these people. I just think it will be impossible not to charge them. It's just the evidence is too overwhelming, too damning. Too many people know about it. Too many people follow the story. And while you may be worried about the consequences of indicting these people, the consequences of not indicting these people after we have so much evidence, I think would be equally dangerous. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.